It bounces because of the way you have to sit down in this chair.
Yeah, but to be able to sit down in that chair and hold that cough at the same time, you didn't spill a drop. You know what? Anyway,
I'm in pretty good shape for
you
a
are
hundred
in.
year old
You
person.
are pretty. What you say for what?
100-year-old person.
100-year-old person? Yeah, you're pretty close to it. So here's my last question on this trip. Very seldom do you get a second chance. I'm gonna hold on a second.
Somebody watching
Yeah,
the
let
movie.
me close the door. Okay. Very seldom do you get a second chance at a do at a do over. But every now and then, God will allow it to happen. So you and I get a do over, a daddy daughter do over.
Well, you do. I don't.
I
I've always
no,
loved
well,
my baby.
I said a daddy daughter do
Okay, go
over.
ahead.
Um, we didn't get to have the conversation that most fathers would give their daughters before they start dating, uh,
Oh, okay.
what to look for in a man and so forth. And we didn't get that. We get it now. I am single again. So, as your daughter, about to step into this whole dating, single, I love space. I know I'm not supposed to be single, so yes, I will remarry. Um, what would be your advice to your daughter? What would have been your advice to me 2 journeys ago?
Well, with you, really, it's a very simple bit of advice. You're an intelligent, you're a grown, intelligent woman, and you don't have the ways of the street and all that stuff that you have to shake. So all you got to do is pick somebody that's in your zone, if I may use that word,
Mm-hmm.
and make good choices. That's all. Because
Pick someone in my zone. In other words, are you saying equally yoked or compatible or in all
that's
those
exactly
words?
what I'm talking about.
Okay, I got you. We've had this conversation before, but I wanted to record it because what happens when you don't know who you are, I now know who I am, so I can absolutely do what you're asking me to do now. Couldn't have done that at 19 because I
Well,
didn't know who I was.
I
I
didn't
didn't,
either, but
huh?
I didn't
I
either.
know, I know, I know. And so it's such a blessing and I feel so privileged in this season. Some people, talk about this glow on me. I said, you don't understand when there's all levels of freedom. But when you get free in your spirit, your soul, and your mind, which is both the natural and the spirit, and God does that, there's nothing like that. And I wish every woman, well, even man, but I'm called to the queens of this season. I wish every woman could feel what I feel right now. And for God to give me a do over with my dad for advice in this area, which I never had. In the era that I grew up in, it was all about don't do this and don't do that. And of course, we know how that turned out. So, one of the things I said to you last night, and and this is not to negate my upbringing because I had a very spiritual upbringing. I equate that upbringing to my relationship with the Lord. But there were some things that I missed, and the things that I missed was that thing that identified the two of us together. I now know certain things I do. I know why I do them. You do them. You know, uh, the communication, the how we analyze information, the gift of gab. But I believe, and I said this. It said that daughters marry their dads, and I've seen that to play out over and over again. And because of who you are, and I now know who I am, I absolutely believe I would have made a different choice because you would have been my measuring stick. And so, therefore, not to negate my stepdaddy's amazing, but because of who I am and what I needed, it would have been better to come from this side than the other side because I struggled with the other side because those individuals were not created for me, number one, and number two, could not handle what I carried. I didn't even know what I carried, but I'm just saying now that I can look back, I'm like, there's no way they could communicate on the intellectual, the spiritual, and all of that. But had I had that type of you and I have a totally different relationship than I have with my stepfather. And had I had that, my thinking, my processing, all of that would have been different. And the only measuring stick I would have had would have been you. And because I know you and I now know me, I was like, whoa. So I'm grateful. Number one, I'm always grateful when I can spend time with you. I think it's a blessing. Not everybody gets that. But to be able to ask you questions across the board, and we haven't even scratched the surface. Some of these videos I'm doing, like you said yesterday, missing so many details. But we got what we could in this trip. But to be able to sit across from you and ask you as a single woman now, that now know who she is, now know what she wants and needs. I have the privilege of sitting across from my dad, who has the wisdom of a 94-year-old, to tell me how to step into this next season of my life. I think that's amazing.
I've made enough mistake for both of us. And then another couple. That's because I didn't know. I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And this is something that I find people who think they know before they do.
Mm-hmm.
They get locked in on their ideals,
Mm-hmm.
and they run with it.
Mm-hmm.
In yours, one of the parables again, search and you shall find.
Mm-hmm.
You have to search, see where you are, see who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Even even search yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't do that. Some people will say, "I like me who I am." Well, yeah, I like the body that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But am I the person I want to be that I can't visually see?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's who you are. You're not that pretty girl that I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Oh,
you
Daddy, you say the
you,
nicest things.
I think I told you this. I went to a funeral a few months back, about a
Mm-hmm.
year ago, I guess. And this guy really wrote something to light that I knew, but I never heard it put that way.
Mm-hmm.
He said that when you were talking about the boy that was being buried was about Margot's age.
Mm-hmm.
He was born and raised right. If you could walk across Western
Mm-hmm.
Street, down
Mm-hmm.
the street, walk
Mm-hmm.
across the street to
Mm-hmm.
Western, that's what you'd walk in that backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Because from that first street
Mm-hmm.
across Western is where he was raised.
Mm-hmm.
He went to his car at work and lunch and didn't come back from lunch, and when they decided to go find out why, what had happened, he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
But it never said it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And but one of the things I find, and I found this when Sylvester came out here to pick up the Cadillac that time, I found out that he was locked into what his old folk taught him.
Right, absolutely.
He had nothing going for him up here. It was just what they told me.
Right.
Is that's what I do.
And that's most people. You only can go by what
Yeah.
what you've been taught and what and of course, I was way into my adulthood before I realized no one can teach you something they don't know. They can't, a person can't teach you what they don't know.
Right.
So I had to free myself from how I felt about certain things. But you just said something and it triggered something. You called me pretty. And you mess with me over the years. You called me all kinds of things.
So I told you don't remember, but I told you when you were about three of us down there, and you and I were walking down. I think it was Lyons Avenue, and a girl walked up to me. She was a good-looking girl too. And,
Okay, Dad.
she says, "She's a beautiful little girl. Can I have her?" I said, "Okay, only if I go with her."
Oh, stop. Listen, this is something that I realize. Every little girl should hear that she's pretty, should hear that she's smart, and that she's beautiful from her dad. And the reason why I say that is because if you don't, the first time you hear it, the possibility of you equating that to love is very real.
Very good.
And that's what happened to me. I came out of middle school into high school, and I was not prepared for the attention that I got in high school, and I didn't know how to handle it. And so what I did, I equated boys calling me pretty, or boys even being attracted to me in such a way, in such an aesthetic way, which is what I tell women, watch how you dress and all this kind of stuff. Men are, they're all about the eyes. I wasn't prepared for that. And so I made mistakes, huge mistakes, that changed the trajectory of my life. And so I appreciate, even in my latter years, you bringing that to me, because you do. You've always told me about, about my looks and me being smart, and compared me to you, and all of that. But I think about that from time to time. I was like, Lord, for 13, maybe 14 years, I'd have heard my dad calling me pretty and cute little girl and all that kind of stuff. The first time a boy would have told me that in high school, I was like, yeah, what else you got? You know what I'm saying? My dad